A French court has barred French presidential frontrunner and far-right leader Marine Le Pen from running for public office for the next 5 years. This has put the future of her political career and that of her political party, the Rassemblement National, into question. Marine Le Pen and her party had been accused of embezzling funds from the European Parliament, with parliamentary aides of its members instead working for the Rassemblement National's French political office. An investigation by the European Parliament estimated that between 2004 and 2016, 4.5 million euros from European Parliament money has gone to financing the Rassemblement National's operational costs. And under a 2016 French law voted to restore trust in the political system, misusing funds comes with mandatory ineligibility sentences. In fact, Marine Le Pen herself had previously campaigned on ineligibility for life for candidates convicted of embezzlement. Prosecutors had looked for a 2-year prison sentence and to bar her from running an office for the next 5 years. But the court's decision was to give a 2-year house arrest, 5 years ban from political elections, and to make the sentence applicable even before any appeal, which effectively stops Marine Le Pen from running in the 2027 French presidential elections. So why is it so controversial? While the evidence against Marine Le Pen is credible, the decision by the court is controversial for 4 main reasons. First is the timing of the sentence. Just 2 years ahead of the French presidential election, this limits the chance for Marine Le Pen to appeal the sentence at all before the vote, while the house arrest makes it impossible for her to organize a campaign even for another candidate. Second is the provisional execution of Le Pen's sentence, which makes the sentence apply before the appeal procedure. Under French law, it's only recommended in the case of a potential for a repeated offense. But this is unlikely considering Marine Le Pen is no longer the president of the Rassemblement National and is also no longer a member of the European Parliament. This has prompted Noël Lenoir, a former member of France's Constitutional Council, to state that judges had killed the monarchy and that they were going to kill the republic as well. The third reason is the accusation of a double standard by the French judiciary. The practices by Madame Le Pen were pretty common in French politics, and in the European Parliament more generally. In fact, France's current Prime Minister, François Bayrou, saw a similar scandal, also with funds from the European Parliament, though the amounts were far lower than those for the Rassemblement National, whose scheme was much more systematic. Prosecutors had sought a 3-year suspended sentence, and the courts did not condemn him directly. An investigation into Jean-Luc Mélenchon, leader of the French far-left La France Insoumise, has been ongoing since 2017 for the party's use of EU funds to finance his own political party, though it's unclear when he will be sentenced. This differing treatment between candidates has led Marine Le Pen to raise the story that this is a political sentence. And finally, there are questions about the nature of the 2016 law, which is unique by European standards for banning candidates for embezzlement. And some French politicians regret having granted the judiciary branch so much authority over the country's electoral process. So what does this mean for Marine Le Pen? Well, for her and her party, there are 3 scenarios to move forward with this sentence. First, she could appeal and succeed to overturn her conviction. However, considering the evidence presented against her, it's unlikely that she would be able to cancel her ineligibility. Second, the appeal for Marine Le Pen could come too late, in which case she wouldn't be able to run in the election regardless. And that leaves her with a third option of requesting a presidential pardon by Emmanuel Macron, something which would allow her to run and turn the page of this political crisis. But Le Pen has excluded this option. As a result, this has led to a small political crisis. While the French left viewed it as justice rendered, and the French government was silent, the Prime Minister François Bayrou, who faced similar procedures, declared himself troubled at the court's decision. Meanwhile, the French right deplored the results of the sentence. At the European level, Italy's Giorgia Meloni said there was little to rejoice in a legal decision that silenced the voice of millions of voters. Meanwhile, further to the right, the Netherlands' Geert Wilders expressed shock, while Hungary's Viktor Orban wrote "Je suis Marine" in an echo to the Charlie Hebdo attacks on his Twitter. But this development also raises further questions about the state of European democracy when hard-right opposition parties and candidates are being banned. Germany has debated a ban on the AfD ahead of its own parliamentary elections, and Romania barred Georgescu over campaign financing issues and alleged ties with Russia. And this will only fuel the right-wing narrative that they are being unfairly targeted and repressed by European judiciaries. Despite the controversy, it seems that Marine Le Pen is politically dead in the water. So does that mean that the Rassemblement National is also doomed by Le Pen's ban? Well, perhaps not. Le Pen herself faced a glass ceiling in terms of voting intentions, despite efforts to normalize her political party and drop controversial policy points like leaving the euro or the European Union and banning her father for anti-Semitic comments. She is still associated with the toxic family brand. and her party has struggled to professionalize and fully shed its far-right image. In the 2024 legislative elections, the party failed to vet candidates properly and ended up endorsing people who had made anti-Semitic social media posts. In fact, her popularity has plateaued at just under 40% and continues to be unacceptable to a large part of the French. A catastrophic debating performance in 2017 and a poor one in 2022 have meant she failed to gain greater appeal. That's why some believe that her protégé, Jordan Bardella, who took over the leadership of the Rassemblement National, could step into her shoes. Bardella is seen as charismatic and has a large appeal to French youth, which usually vote for left-wing political parties. Over the past 2 years, his popularity even surpassed that of Le Pen's. However, at just 29 years old, Bardella is quite young and inexperienced, and has struggled against face-offs against more experienced candidates. That's why the current challenge of the Rassemblement National and Marine Le Pen's have turned France's political landscape upside down. First, it might boost other far-right options for the upcoming presidential election. If Bardella fails to be credible, it could benefit the far-right Éric Zemmour, who advocates for mass deportations of illegal immigrants. But the Rassemblement National's dominance of the right-wing political spectrum is also an obstacle to other more electable right-wing candidates. Last year, it won almost 40% of the vote at the legislative elections. On the right, the duo of Interior Minister Bruno Retailleau and Cannes Mayor David Linard could potentially lead to a right-wing government hard on immigration and liberal economics. Alternatively, in the center bloc, it could lead to better chances for a Macron continuation candidate, with former Prime Ministers Édouard Philippe or Gabriel Attal, who are the de facto leaders of France's centrist bloc. But it also changes things on the other side of the political spectrum. Far-left leader Jean-Luc Mélenchon, who faces similar accusations, has come out in support of Le Pen. And there has been speculation that Mélenchon, whose far-left LFI has dominated French left-wing politics, would like to face off against Le Pen in the presidential runoff. Mélenchon is seen as toxic like Le Pen, and he hoped that a face-off against Le Pen in the second round could open the door to winning the presidency. With Le Pen out of the equation, there's little chance that a left-wing coalition led by Mélenchon could win the election, which could benefit the likely socialist candidate Raphaël Glucksmann. It's safe to say that the French elections have just gotten a lot more unpredictable. And with so many challenges to tackle, including its ballooning deficit, uncontrolled immigration, and a worsening safety situation with high crime and the threat of terrorism at home, France has little room for political instability. But it's only going to get more. But what do you think? Is the French law banning candidates too extreme? What does that mean for the future French elections? And does this have an impact on other European countries? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Additionally, I wanted to make a couple of announcements and updates. The first is why I haven't posted so much these past couple of months. I recently developed a series of food intolerances that had a pretty big physical and mental impact. I basically had to rewire my entire diet and how I cooked food, and as a result, it was also very stressful and had to cut my working hours pretty significantly. But now I'm back at work with a long deep dive on European multiculturalism, which I am currently in the process of animating. And I recently started a second channel called Last Week in Europe to give you weekly updates on developments in Europe, related to politics, the economy, and immigration. So if that sounds like something to you, feel free to go subscribe to the new channel. I'll see you on Last Week in Europe this Friday or in my next long-form video right here. It's good to be back.